In this section, we're going to look at two characteristics of input and output. The first is random and sequential. The second is block or stream. When we say random or sequential, what we mean by that is, let's think about examples of them. A random access I/O or random access device is one that can pick out data as it needs it. If you think about, for example, a disk drive, let's just take a standard magnetic disk drive. Okay, the head of the read head of that drive can read from anywhere on that disk. Right? It can move to the middle of it and pick out a byte or a chunk of bytes, and then it can move to a third of the way through and pick out another one, and then move to the end and pick out another one. So it can move all over the place and pick it out. It doesn't have to start at the beginning and work its way through to the end. However, if you think about a tape, if you think about, for example, a cassette tape, which you don't see very often anymore, a cassette tape has to start at the beginning of the tape and work its way all the way through. Now, surprisingly, magnetic tape is still a very popular medium for data storage. It's used primarily for backup and for very, very large data storage. For example, the CERN Super Collider uses magnetic tape for storage during collision events because it generates humongous amounts of storage. And it turns out that there are some characteristics of magnetic tape that make it very valuable. One is you can store humongous amounts of data. And the second is that it is very safe storage. So in other words, there's not a lot of electronics. There's no electronics in that tape that can go wrong. If the electronics in the reader goes bad, you just simply switch to another reader. Whereas if the electronics on a disk drive goes bad, then it's more difficult to recover that. If you drop a hard drive, then you could ruin it. If you drop a tape, it's not likely to ruin it. So we do still use tape quite a bit because tape can be endless, right? Not endless, but it can be very, very long tape and can store very large amounts of data. But it is sequential access, which means it's very slow. It's slow to read once you've written to it. So we do like sequential access devices for quantity, but we like random access devices for speed. And most of us on our computers today use hard drives or solid state drives, which are all random access devices. The other thing we want to look at, though, are character stream and block devices. So character stream only moves 1 byte of data at a time. So a keyboard is a good example of that. When I press a key, 1 byte of data moves from the keyboard to the CPU or whatever device it's going to. That would be a character stream, and typically when you're transferring data, say from a hard drive, in most cases in home computers, it's transferring via a character stream. However, in commercial devices, in commercial storage systems, block transfers are very common, where a whole block is read at one time and then transferred as a whole block of data. So in other words, it's not looking at a file, it's looking at a block of data, and that block of data may overlap 2 different files as an example. So that would be a block device, or a collection of bytes of a fixed size all being transferred at once. So I hope that clarifies those 2 characteristics a little bit.